Welcome back to the Changemaker Podcast. I'm your host, Deke Copenhaver. Today, my guest is my good friend, who needs really no introduction, the 85th mayor of Augusta, Georgia. I was 83rd. Mayor Garnett Johnson serves on the board of the Georgia Department of Economic Development. Too many boards to count. Past chair of the Augusta Chamber of Commerce. But today is a special edition because the mayor and I just participated with a campaign that was really an exercise in democracy at the local level. And so I want to lay out for our listeners what that looked like from start to finish. So, Mayor, welcome.
Welcome to the Changemaker Podcast, hosted by Deke Copenhaver. Deke is the author of The Changemaker, a Forbes publishing book that has reached #1 on Amazon on multiple occasions and in multiple categories like management skills and total quality management. During this podcast, Deke interviews exceptional change-making leaders. Deke currently operates Copenhaver Consulting, where he helps local governments and other public organizations maximize their potential. He's also a sought-after public speaker. We hope that the Changemaker has an impact on you today and that you find takeaways that make you a better leader in your life. Now, here's Deke.
Thank you so much, Deke, former mayor. It's certainly an honor to be here. Always great to be with you to talk about all the great things we're doing here in Augusta, Georgia.
Well, and so our government consolidated 28 years ago. And so for our listeners and viewers, basically the city of Augusta was going broke.
That is correct.
And was about to go into bankruptcy.
That is correct.
Which forced consolidation.
Mm-hmm.
So 28 years ago, the city and county governments consolidated. So the charter that we've operated under for the past 28 years with very little, if no review, was drafted in an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm. So
the charter at that point in time gave the right to the mayor, who it also names the CEO, the right to vote only in the event of a tie. So we have 10 commissioners that are your elected colleagues, but over time, we became the poster child for the tyranny of the minority, because what commissioners figured out that they could do is they could abstain for no reason, no valid conflict of interest. They could walk out of the room, but simply to block the mayor, the one individual elected at large by the entire city, from voting. So, we've gone 28 years with that, but talk a little bit about your perspective on that, and then we'll talk about the campaign that changed it.
Yeah, and in addition to the mayor supposedly being the tiebreaker, our charter also states that it takes 6 votes to take an action. So as you know, by walking out of the room, you always end up with these 5-4-1s. Vote results. Initially, when I was elected on June 21st, 2022, as the 85th mayor, we were truly excited about what we would do in January. As you know, our elections happen mid-year. I had planned to wake up the following morning and pick up my campaign signs, which is a pledge. I believe strongly you should clean the city up. And I received a call to congratulate me from a sitting commissioner who then told me that I'm never going to allow you to vote on any single thing, nothing. Now, he then also stated, when we train you how to vote and you vote with us, we'll allow you to vote. Initially, I took it to offense in that, here I am, at just recently been elected, and I was told flatly that I would not be able to participate in one of the greatest processes in the history of our world, and it's our democracy. So I took action in that I sought out some counsel from some colleagues that serve with me on the Augusta-Richmond County Commission. Sought counsel with 6 of them. There were 4 that I did not, and that was intentional. Also reached out to our Georgia General Assembly local legislative delegation, in that I was asking that legislation be introduced so that we could take action to get decisions made for our governance. I thought it was way overdue. It was drafted as Senate Bill 231, introduced to the Senate, then to the Georgia House. It passed both houses, and the governor signed it. That allows the mayor an equal vote. An equal vote. It does not authorize any additional powers or duties or responsibilities to the mayor, just an equal vote so that we could take action to get things done.
But that was the enabling legislation that passed in 2023. But all that did was it put it on the ballot as a referendum to effectively let the people decide. And I've often said, one of our engineers here said, oh gosh, we consolidated the last time you were here in 1996. Well, that's not hard for me to remember because that's the year I was born. So in 28 years, we have gotten no input from the public with regards to how the government should function. But there were people that fought against this. And let me just, because I want to pull back the curtain on this, because a lot of people that have never dealt with politics are like, that can't be so. But as we pulled back the curtain, as we, during the campaign, made presentations, we talked to, just neighborhood associations and every group. But the commissioner who called you, so last time I checked, you're a black man, as is he.
Yes.
But he was actually first elected in 2019 in a special election. We are a city of 201,000 people. He was elected with 496 votes.
That's correct.
The next year he ran unopposed for a full 4-year term. So somebody with 496 votes in favor of him was able to effectively, just hijack the city or hold the city hostage. And I'm like, when I tell people that, they're like, well, how is that possible? I said, it was the structure of government we had.
That is correct. In that being a district commissioner, he's essentially responsible for 25,000 of our residents. I am, as you know, being the mayor elected by the community at large, and I saw it as, certainly a need for us to fix. We're fortunate that on May 21st, that vote, which you mentioned, that enabled the people to decide. It was in the form of a referendum, a binding referendum, and then the voters overwhelmingly support that the mayor should have a vote. It's amazing. You're right. So many people approach me as mayor, and they say, Mayor, I never had an idea you didn't vote.
No.
You didn't have a vote. So I'm getting educated on our charter and how things work. And, I'm just delighted that the citizens have shown trust in me to allow me to have a vote. But this is just the beginning. My overall fight in this is that we need to really take a look at our charter and see how we could fix it to make it more effective and efficient for the voters who live here.
Well, and so in helping to lead this campaign, my goal was, I don't want this. I mean, I think in partisan politics, it's like, well, get out your base and we're satisfied with the 51-49 or 52-48. This passed with 74%.
74.
So putting it before the people and letting the people decide. But before I get into how we really ran the campaign and the focus, but there was opposition.
There was. Yeah, it surprised me a bit in that I never understood how people could be in opposition of letting everyone participate in the process.
Yeah.
As an African American, the Civil Rights Act of 1965 still resonates with me today because I'm just 2 generations when my grandparents, had to struggle and fight just for the simple right to vote. And then, to take an action like this, Senate Bill 231, that allowed everyone to vote. Who could be in opposition to that? But there were some. It was basically in opposition of what they said was the process.
Yeah.
And the process in which I think they would have liked is that we would have taken this before the commission, the full commission. Yeah. For them to only probably do the same thing they've done for 28 years, to abstain and kill action and be indecisive as to how we create a better form of governance. I can sit here before you and tell you that I did reach out to 6 commissioners. The request that I sent to the Georgia General Assembly has 6 signatures. So if that were a commission action, that would have passed and it would have been approved. However, I know that the process would not have allowed that. Therefore, we went forward with, and I had every right to do it directly to the Georgia General Assembly.
Well, and, I was speaking at an event in Athens when I was in office, and we were talking about consolidated governments. And somebody said, well, you have to do away with constitutional officers, and I said in that forum, and I'll say it again, politics is not, in general, as a whole, there are good elected officials, but it's not about black and white, Democrat and Republican, male and female. It's about power and control. And once you give somebody a little bit of it, good luck taking it away from them. So I just want to, before I get into, this is a revolutionary campaign that I hope we've created a template that can help local governments all over the nation. But the opposition was led by a former commissioner.
Yes.
He's been out of office however many years, but this goes back to the power and control. So this former commissioner has, effectively influence over 5 commissioners, and would sit when I tell this to people locally, or when we've pulled back the curtain on this, would sit in commission meetings and text those 5 commissioners on how to vote. So 99.9% of the population of Augusta couldn't pick this gentleman, who shall remain nameless, out of a lineup. And I said, do you realize this guy, who is not an elected official, has as much, if not more, influence over our governing body as the mayor does, who is voted on at large and is the CEO and is a successful entrepreneur and small businessman?
Well, I don't understand it in that. I believe in that our democracy, it allows us, to be elected. It's still, I don't want to say troubling, but it is concerning that a formerly elected official continues to, at least in my opinion, it's his right to show up to meetings, but just continue to be engaged in the process to where you now have a newly elected commissioner for that district. I believe strongly that you should turn the reins over to them and let them govern in which they feel they should. However, this person continues to be involved and engaged in government behind the scenes, and it's his right to do it. But it is certainly concerning. You're a former mayor. You don't show up to meetings and call me every day and text me and want to take action on every single thing.
No, I'm here as a resource for you.
It's a perfect example.
Yeah.
How often do we talk on commission days where you're calling me, providing advice, showing up to commission meetings? You've served your time. You've done your due. You turn the reins over to whoever's elected, and hopefully they make good decisions on behalf of their district. If they don't, I can understand. You could call me as a former mayor. I wouldn't do it that way. This is an important thing, but you don't get involved in the day-to-day minutia of everyday governance. It's time, if we elected new officials, move on.
Exactly.
And watch, and that way it gives us an opportunity to move forward.
Well, and as we've discussed, I'm here as a resource for you and a friend. And when I first started talking to you about running for mayor, I said then, and I'll say it now, I said, when you're elected, and you were, and you did extremely well, you don't owe me anything. Right. All I want is a mayor that I can be proud of and that our community can be proud of. And you've held true to that. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's who I am. I believe, I have, strong convictions and ideals about, how I would like Augusta to move forward. And that, I have experience traveling around the state. As you mentioned, I served on the Georgia Department of Economic Development. However, the reason I ran is because I don't think we're moving in a direction that creates, economic opportunities for everybody, more job creation, more places to live, more accountability. So that's why I ran and still remain passionate about that today.
Well, and one interesting thing about this to me, too, is I think you and I both agree that one of the beautiful things about local governments in the state is they're nonpartisan.
That's right.
So your position as mayor, my position as mayor was nonpartisan. And I took the approach, as have you, that is such a wonderful situation to be in because you can work with both sides. So you've got a great relationship with the Governor Brian Kemp, who's a Republican. You also have gone to the White House multiple times because you've got a great relationship with the Biden-Harris administration.
Certainly, I think that's important in that, my primarily objective is to make sure that Augusta is represented. I serve in a nonpartisan role. I tell everybody I am a fiscal conservative, and this is important. That does not translate to being a Republican or anything else. It just translates to whatever tax dollars that are collected by the city should be dealt with due care and should be spent as though they were my dollars. So that's important to me to make sure that we do some of the simple things like cutting the grass and show accountability to our tax dollars. However, being mayor requires me to work with whoever's in charge in Atlanta at the state capitol, or whoever's in charge in Washington, and that's who I am. I think once you get to a point of being biased, it certainly alienates the other side, and I certainly don't want to do that. I am a businessman at heart, and I've taken this role with a business approach to trying to get things done, and I try not to get caught up in all the bureaucracy of government.
Well, the interesting thing about this to me, though, too, Mr. Mayor, is that the opposition tried to make this partisan. Mm-hmm. This was a ballot referendum. There was nothing partisan about it, but they tried to paint you as a Republican due to your relationship with the governor.
It's been a narrative since the campaign to become mayor, and I think there's something that they're continuing to try to make stick in that. I do have a great relationship with Brian Kemp. In my opinion, I think he's one of the best governors we had probably in my lifetime. Agree. You look at what he's done for growing jobs and opportunities in the state. He's done a phenomenal job with that. Also, thank the world of President Joe Biden in naming Augusta one of 5 hub workforce cities. That is a big deal for Augusta, giving us our city the ability to highlight the opportunity to create jobs through clean energy, apprenticeships, working with the trade unions. That is unbelievable. You look at the other 4 cities and you wonder, what does Augusta have in common with them? You look at Baltimore, Maryland, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Phoenix, Arizona, and Columbus, Ohio. Augusta made that list, and it's all because of our advocacy for the city. I think our love resonates whenever time we talk to the Biden-Harris administration about our need to create pathways for those who want to call Augusta home to good-paying jobs, and he's been very receptive to that, and we support that.
Well, there was a recent study performed, so I'm very active with Starts With Us and a lot of the bridging organizations at the national level, but that 75% of Americans want to see Congress work together in bipartisan fashion to solve problems, which I think because they're so skewed to the far right and the far left, they can be a little tone deaf to Americans. But being a nonpartisan mayor, you were able to be that bridge to really do effectively what 75% of Americans want to see.
I think so. If you look at, I heard an interesting statistic, and you may have shared it with me, where most of Americans have a dislike for Congress, yet the majority love their congressman, or congresswoman. Yeah. So how can you get any sense out of the two? But I do realize that there is so much. I don't want to say dysfunction, but this party system that we have. I mean, and I kind of get it how you have to align. If you're aligned with as a Democrat, you have to toe the line with their entire agenda. If you're aligned with Republicans, you have to do the same. And sometimes it's hard finding common ground.
Yeah.
And I think being a nonpartisan mayor, and if we had more people to kind of spread the message that we're here just for the best interests of our communities and our cities, hopefully that will kind of move all around into our state levels and our federal levels to create probably an opportunity for us to work together where there's room to do it.
Well, I just want to do one more little part, pulling back the curtain on the opposition.
Okay.
So the former commissioner that sits in commission meetings and tells commissioners how to vote, he was the face of the opposition. But you attended a forum in which he was making the case to vote no instead of vote yes. So the reasoning behind that, I believe, initially he said that it's just kind of like the same argument every time. It was illegal, that the way it came on the ballot, which I told people, I'm like, do you think our state legislature doesn't have attorneys that check through everything? So that was a false argument. Next, I believe that he said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that if you received a vote, that you could suspend all Augusta laws.
I don't recall him saying that, but I know the premise of his argument against it was all based on the racial makeup of our city.
Fear.
And it could be fear, but I'm here to say that, I don't believe in doing something based on what race you are.
No.
I believe our city is a diverse group of a lot of folks, even though the majority happen to be African American. However, the far majority want a government that works for everybody, and that's fair. And that's fair. And that's fair. It shouldn't be based on what your skin color is, but it should be based on how we perform and how we get things done. In my opinion, try to lower our taxes to try to provide better services, better roads, better infrastructure, and I think those things transcend race.
Well, and I'll tell you, Garnett, and that's the thing to me is that I'd said that our community at the grassroots level had moved so far beyond the politics, but we effectively executed a true grassroots campaign. But I would tell people when I governed, I think there's a tendency for some in elected office to govern to the vocal minority, which they think that's prevailing public opinion. So I would have commissioners say, my phone's lighting up on this. I'm saying, how many calls did you get? 10. So 10 angry people out of 200,000 people. But that's just, I think being nonpartisan, you can govern to the majority in the middle. And that's exactly so. I want to talk about this campaign.
Let's do it.
So the Augusta Stronger Together campaign. So we rolled it out at the beginning. You and myself, former Mayor Bob Young, former Mayor Hardy Davis, we stood together.
We did.
To say we support this campaign. People talked to me. So we had two, our current mayor is black. Mayor Davis was black. Mayor Young was white. I'm white. But I think Mayor Young was more on the Republican side. Mayor Davis more on the Democrat. You and I are both independents. But the people I spoke to that said that was the most powerful image to set the tone of the campaign, to see these four mayors standing together, across all lines of difference. We don't agree with everything politically, but we were willing to stand together to do what is right for our community.
Yeah, and we were the only four, I'm gonna say gentlemen, not to offend anyone, but kind of understood understand the pains and ills that we go through as being mayor under this current form of government, and that often your hands are tied by having the ability to get things done. I don't really believe that was in the intention of the charter in talking to some of the creators. It was never intended for the mayor. And here's what I hear from the other side, and here's what I've been told. You just go cut ribbons, perform ceremonies. No, this is true. You go do your thing, but you stay out of our business, stay out of your way. You go travel, do whatever you want to do as mayor, but when it comes to the governance of Augusta, you let the commission handle that. I didn't become elected mayor to sit on the sidelines and not do anything. We want to be in the game so that we can make Augusta a better place to live, work, and play, and that's where I'll be, and that's who I will always be.
Well, I'll tell you, grassroots engagement is my firm love. I just love to do it. I mean, I tell people I enjoyed going through chemotherapy because I'd get to sit and talk to people.
Right.
But this was a true grassroots campaign. We took it to the people.
Directly.
It was positive, uplifting, inclusive. It had as a primary focus to bring together citizens from all walks of life on common ground. We never went negative.
Never.
And so just that grassroots engagement. But you and I discussed this. There were still people that didn't think this was ever going to pass. And I'm like, if you're not out there at the grassroots level as an elected official or as an individual, as a leader, you've got a blind spot.
I felt very good about this from the very beginning.
Me too.
In that it gave us the opportunity to engage the voters directly.
Exactly.
And being on a campaign for, almost 2 years, I heard the sentiments from so many people, liberal, conservative, black, white, Latina, that whatever we were doing in Augusta was not working. So when I had the opportunity to ask how we could change it, I said, let's put together a binding referendum that's decided by the people.
Exactly.
Every single person. Now, people mistake and you've said this before, the paper tigers, thinking that they're the vocal minority, but people perceive them as being the gospel when it comes to getting things done. If you look at the vote turnout and the results from the May 21 election to give the mayor a vote, you would see that the vocal minority is truly a vocal minority.
Exactly.
We had a small group of call themselves an assembly of reverends, as well as the president of the NAACP and former commissioners, former people who think that they speak primarily for the African-American community. I'm here to say they don't. They don't. This is a educated community that believes strongly that Augusta deserves better and that they have an independent mind, and this May 21st vote showed that.
Well, and the campaign had a lot of different focuses. Earned media, I think we did great with that. Just grassroots engagement, you going out and speaking to people all over. And let me say, you are a darn good campaigner. But we had a social media focus too. And just one of the things I discovered social media wise, the best place to engage people and educate people is on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Because it's not the extremists, but we were able to educate, inform, engage, and ultimately empower the people, but we never went negative. And we one of my fondest memories is Pastor Angel Maestre.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first piece of earned media we did. We did outreach to the Latino community.
Directly.
And they appreciated it because it's like, I got the feeling that it's like, well, nobody during campaigns ever acknowledges us.
They didn't, and as you know, we made an intentional approach to when we were engaged by people who wanted to be a part of the campaign.
Exactly.
It was a cross section of our community: black, white, Latina,
old,
young, some of everybody.
Yeah.
And we did a great job of illustrating that and getting our message out. And one thing I did hear from our competition, those that were against it, they said, you know what, they had the commercials and, they had the yes thing going and it worked and it resonated. And I think it was just primed to happen. Augusta really needs change, and we're excited to get it done. But this is just the beginning. I have to keep reiterating that. Having the mayor have a vote is just the beginning, and that, the end goal is to have a charter review, and so that we can make sure that moving forward, we won't have to wait 28 years to get it done.
No. Well, I tell people you cannot lead to the extremes.
No.
You just can't. And that's what we see in politics. Inflame your base and get your base out. But really that outreach throughout the community and just welcoming anybody that wanted to come aboard and basically saying, you have a chance to be a part of history. All you have to do is stand with us and vote yes. So that campaign made history, but the rest of the nation was actually looking on too, because I invited them in. But I had so many people say, a community that has been portrayed by some of the leadership as being a community divided along racial lines, which you and I know that is not the case. But people said, thanks to you and the mayor for modeling, what working together across all lines looks like, and the other mayors as well. But it was a fun campaign. The commercials were even uplifting and inclusive and showed the true diverse face of our community.
Sure. As I went around on the what I call the trail, the campaign trail, telling everybody, don't let them continue to separate our community on race. Don't let them continue to separate our community on what side of town you live on. We're all one community of a diverse group of folks. And if you believe in having a better form of government, one that's accountable to you, you should vote yes. And I will continue to say that message, that if you continue to want a better community, it's beyond time for business overhaul. You said it. It's time to update our business plan, and that is our charter. So I'm excited about continuing the path of this effort. But proud to say that on Tuesday the administrative committee on the Augusta Richmond County Commission unanimously approved moving it forward to the full commission. So hopefully next Tuesday we will have the opportunity to authorize our clerk of a commission to engage the Carl Vinson Institute of Government, so that we could lead down a path to see how we create a charter review committee.
Well, and as we start to wind down, I know you've got something to get to, but another focus of ours was to engage the younger voters in Augusta, because I would say, you haven't ever had a chance to have any input into this. Right. Young people that were born the year that I was first elected in 2005 are voters.
That's right.
But I was having a discussion with a young lady, 23 years old, new mother, newly married. But I said, you need to vote in this campaign. She said, well, I don't vote. My vote doesn't make a difference. I said, no, at the local level, you will begin to see the impacts of this quickly. So 2 nights later, I was in the same restaurant. She said, guess who's voting? So we were actually able to engage, and they took pride in being a part of really change. We co-created a new, more functional government. We could not have done it without the voters. It was truly a team effort.
Mayor, I'm going to give you some credit for that, because, initially on you say, we have to engage young folks that were not part of this original charter creation. You started that initiative. My primary focus was on just looking at, as a traditional, politician, looking at the people that had voted, because most people automatically think that the more engaged voter are older, more established, residents or citizens. But you said, I want to engage young folks, and you did that intentional through other media platforms like LinkedIn and other places. We went out to young professionals of Augusta. We went out to these places to truly engage them. So I want to give you some credit for making that happen. So
this truly was democracy on the ballot.
That's right.
I mean, pure and simple. And so 62% of Americans are worried about the future of our democracy. That's Republicans and Democrats for different reasons. But I wanted to prove a point that a positive, uplifting, inclusive campaign where you're putting democracy to a vote of the people, democracy is a winner. It was a winner here on May 21st. It
was a winner, and, we couldn't be more excited. An overwhelming winner in that the people decided. Now, I believe strongly we have their confidence, and we're going to continue it. It's brighter days ahead for Augusta. Couldn't be more excited about having the opportunity of working with you. And I've asked you before this podcast, we're going to roll up our sleeves and continue working. And we're going to see if we could, we're not going to see, we're going to make Augusta a better place.
Well, and I've shared with you, I honestly believe that, so I was talking to the CEO of the Forward Party, and she said, you know what? She said, the people that have actually run a campaign, executed the way we did in the United States are few and far between. Mm-hmm. But I think this is the beginning of something big, not just here in Augusta. I don't think this campaign, as you say, it was not the finish. It's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning. And I'm proud to be, I guess, that from the beginning, we've taken on weird and unique challenges, getting elected and then taking office and then realizing that, gosh, less than 2 years later, you're involved in a change that hasn't taken place in 28 years. I'm proud to be a part of that, and I'm excited about where it's headed and what we'll do to make Augusta better.
Well, man, I will tell you, I have a very strong faith, and I believe in God's timing, not our own. Mm-hmm. So I told somebody, a year ago is when I was diagnosed with cancer. I was in the midst of intensive treatment. But so if this opportunity had come along last year, I couldn't have done it. But I had surgery on my vocal cords. I got back my voice like a week before we made this announcement. So God's timing was right on the money. But I feel like we are a partnership. Yeah. And I don't believe, even when you're out of office, I think we've got so many lessons to teach people through our experiences together. Think the world of your lovely bride, Tony, and your family. Yeah. And just God bless you, man. You are the mayor that we need right now. And I'm just here to support you in any way possible.
That truly means a lot, and I appreciate your friendship and all of the advice you've given me, all of your encouragement. It's certainly well taken, and couldn't be more proud. I tell everybody this. This is a job I never dreamed of having. Here I am, a poor kid from East Augusta. My dreams never took me to being the 85th mayor of this great city, but I'm embracing it every single day, and with this opportunity, I promise to always represent Augusta with the highest level of honor and integrity, and to get something done. I'm not a ceremonial ribbon cut, rah-rah kind of mayor. We're going to mix it up to make Augusta better for everybody, so that's who we are.
No, and we share that we're both very competitive, and I think that's a good thing to carry into that office, but really, I consider us blessed to have you as mayor right now. So you are a true public servant. I always said that being a public servant, you're there to serve the public, not a political party, not a special interest group. That is what you're doing. And I know the community supports you. So God bless you in your endeavors, my friend.
Thank you so much, my friend, for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
That's all the time we got for today. Dropping the mic, and we are out. Hey guys, thanks for listening to or watching the Changemaker podcast today. Greatly appreciate it. If you're listening and you want to see the video, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Deke Copenhaver. That's pretty easy to remember, I would think. But really, we also want to remind you to like, subscribe, rate across all platforms, download. And if you're looking for a coach, a speaker, or anything, you know where to find me. Just email me at me@dekecopenhaver.com. And thanks so much for listening.